Okay, so you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'm gonna start by telling you this. And this is important, so listen up. Your entire life, this one and many others, you've been a god who uses its absolute power to make yourself powerless. Entire cultures, especially this one, have all been afraid of their weaknesses, supposedly, when in reality, they've all been afraid of their power. This goes beyond the matrix of reality. This is something much deeper than that. This is eternal. This is fully realizing your consciousness. This is infinite. This is evolution. This is our divine right.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. This is Bootsy Greencast, because that is, I don't know. I'm not, sometimes just not that creative, but I'm really excited. I'm fortunate to have amazing guests, and today is no exception at all. Today we have Andrew Calderella, and he's coming all the way from Southern California to meet with us today, and we have really a lot in common. We had a great session just kind of chatting things up before we got started, and before we kind of get rolling, here's a little shot of his website. He's got a lot of really cool ideas, and I'm really excited to kind of see where this show goes. I mean, so many of us, I feel like we feel isolated. We feel like what we think or believe about the world is off compared to what we're being told by the mainstream. But I don't think that's really true. I think we really are all connected to the spirit of the universe, frankly. And so we're all kind of on the same wavelength regardless. I want to thank my folks over at Content Safe, because they know we're all connected. And so they're all connected to all the little crazy nooks and crannies of the internet, posting all this content out there. They're amazing. I also want to thank all my Patreon people as well. Thank you guys so very much for contributing to me and what I've been trying to do here. I really, really appreciate you all. And I will have a episode for you all this week for the Patreon people. I've got the get coached thing. Sometimes you just need to get coached. We got the event calendar, and that will have all the events, all the podcasts, all the streams, all the video release dates, Clubhouse sessions, all the stuff that we're doing. Really, really easy to go ahead and just add that to your Google Calendar. And, we also have a Facebook group that is open for the public. If you're interested, come over there to Facebook, #GetCoached. I'm really, really happy to have Andrew on the show today. Andrew, thank you very, very much for being a part of the show. And I'm really excited to talk to you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm awesome. It's an awesome opportunity to be here. Thank you for having me. A little nervous.
Dude, you're fine. I'm like flattered that anyone would be nervous to talk to talk on a show.
I think it's partly because I've been an athlete my whole life, and I get like pumped up before the show, and it's like I want to go run right now. I gotta just stand here and talk. So
well, I like the energy. We want to keep that, pumping. That's good stuff. And you have a lot of amazing work that you've been doing. And we can talk about that. I thought it was really interesting that you keyed off the intro song, which is my friend Oscar. He created that song, I guess, quite a few years ago. And he shared it with me one day. And I was like, man, that is just awesome. I really, really, really like it. And
I think it'd be good to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, he was kind enough to let me use it as bumper music, and I was really, really stoked about that.
Well, you say some things in there like we're afraid of our weaknesses. We're afraid of our power. It kind of ties into the whole theme of my book in the sense that we all kind of want the same things and, desire the same type of goodness for the world and ourselves. It's just what is stopping us? You know what I mean? What is preventing the human race from taking this next step of our evolution to becoming, better people and creating a better society? So that's, I kind of liked your intro because it makes you think about some things. How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. Yeah, Oscar's great. Like, we met through a course that I took called Autonomy. and we chatted, and we were talking about channelers and, you know, all this woo woo stuff. And I think we're both pretty grounded people, but we were also like really curious about what's possible, you know, like
Yeah.
infinity is real. So, you know, there's definitely something to spirituality and how we interface with the dream space and alternatives that could exist and manifesting and all these types of ideas. I think there's a lot of people who kind of hide behind some of these ideas and principles, and may even take advantage of people at times.
Sure.
I try and do my best to only teach really what I've experienced as much as possible, so that I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm just channeling, right? Like we were joking the other day, like about channeling Joan of Arc or something. It's like, you just channel her like right at the end when she's on fire, you know?
Oh God, the horror.
Oh my
I think,
God.
you know, when you talk about these things, like you talk about God, I think it's important, especially nowadays. You know, so much of our society is kind of been affected by these idea of God. And I think it's important to separate the idea of God, messengers, the books, the organizations, and the leaders of those organizations, because they are very separate things. And when you talk about God as just, you know, forget everything else, just as the originator, the creator, the beginning of the, you know, reaction action cycle. You know what I mean? There's this, even scientists agree that there's, you know, the nothingness created somethingness. What is this nothingness? We can call all of that just God, the starter of everything. And then we can kind of build on from there. The messengers like Christ or Buddha or Muhammad, Abraham, and all the rest, you know, brought messages to the world. Most of them didn't write books. Muhammad was one of the exceptions to that. But again, the organizations then that grew up around them became something unto themselves. And a lot of times they fractured, they've taken clauses out of the book and emphasized those over other ones and kind of washed away the other ones. And we can see the corruption within all of these organizations just by the horror that they bring. But there's also this other side to them, which is the goodness, right? The spiritual part, the oneness with the divine and all the rest that we all seek. And I've talked to, gosh, people of every faith around the world. We all can feel that, you know, that divine spirit. It's like, what is that? And I think that's what we have to get back to. The God that I'm speaking of and the God that I want to represent is the God of all, the God of this earth. It's not of one religion. The religions are what they're trying to talk about, is about this God, right? And, you know, we talk about God, everybody gets freaked out about it, like, oh, you can talk to God or you can do this. It took me a lot of years, right, to get to the point where you can just kind of commune with the oneness and be at one, meditation and all this, to understand some of the higher principles of life. And one of the biggest things that I think we all have to realize is this is not a perfect world, right? This is not heaven. This is a training ground for us to learn and be tested and become better people. And, you know, being made in the image of God, if you want to take that analogy, is like, but we're empty, right? We need to be filled with knowledge. We need to grow from nothing into something. So how we do that really matters, right?
Yeah, it really does. I agree. Yeah. And, you know, it's the essence of these teachings. And that's why I think there are so many books that are trying to say the same exact thing. And there's, you know, just like book, you know, but like, I think people, you know, we're easily corruptible, right? Like when they say, like, with great, you know, it's like absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so when people kind of get this stage or this platform and they are over people, I think there's something messed up about that, you know, the power dynamic, and that can really expose a lot of our flaws. But I think at the essence of each one of these books, whether they be channeled or whether someone else wrote about this character or what have you, if the meaning is there, the message is there, then that's really what is the most important part of the
Absolutely.
message, right?
Absolutely. You actually touched on a few topics there. My book, The Way, isn't like other books. Just so people know a little bit about me. I was born with dyslexia, other learning disabilities, lazy eye. And a lazy eye meant my eye was turned in. I saw 2200 vision out of that eye. And I had to wear a patch as a kid. I was born in Detroit. My parents were fighting for the civil rights movement in 1966. And I was bullied relentlessly as a kid. One of the teachers even went out as far as ridiculing me in front of the class and telling me I'd never graduate, I should just drop out and that kind of thing. So I did graduate, went on to graduate from high school, was an athlete, school leader, went on to college, got degrees in speech communications, philosophy, theology, was on the crew, which is the rowing team. and I was a school leader there, elected to programming commission for a little while. Then I went on, started my own businesses and all this stuff. But the whole point here is that I've also had this greater mission, like you said, this idea of wanting to know why we're here, the meaning of life, some of the other biggest questions in the world. How do we actually become the best people we can be? So I've been on this mission since I was very young. So 30 years worth of research and trials and tribulations went into this book. I mean, not only was I bullied as a kid, but I was hit by cars and bit by dogs and had more fights than you can imagine. I almost died so many times, but all of that has helped me realize some of the things that we all want to know. And I just want to say, I didn't write this book because I'm like some writer guy. I mean, it's literally like everything I write is crazy. I mean, you write it and you can't read it because everything's misspelled. It's in the wrong order. The words are the wrong words. So it takes forever just to decipher whatever it is I'm writing and then to put it in the right order for it to make sense. So this was a labor of passion and, like I said, a mission, because I found some epiphanies that, like I said, I wish we all knew. I mean, I have 20 years of research. You're like, oh my God. So all success books, every self-help book that you can read out there are all about virtue. That's it. I mean, if you just understand that one principle, it's like people compare my book kind of to the, Think and Grow Rich. It took him 30 years to write. He spent his time researching what the super rich guys in the 20s thought was going to make them, successful. And there's flaws in that book because it doesn't tell you how to do a lot of that stuff, but they're also geared towards money, wealth, and fame, right? It's all about how you can get that kind of stuff. It doesn't show you how you can have what is really important in life. And the very first chapter of this book starts with, what is the true goal of life? What's the difference between success and true success? And I think this is one of the biggest principles that we all have to realize. Wealth, power, and fame are not your ultimate goal. They're not how we judge a meaningful life. They're in fact tests and challenges. And, a lot of people get corrupted, like you said, and they fail this leadership test. And that's like the biggest problem in the world. We have two types of leaders. We have those leaders that really want to help us, right? They're out there trying to figure it out, and they might not know, but they're really honest and try to do it. And then there's the other guys that are just got to put you under my thumb. I must control everybody. I must suck the wealth. I'd rather stuff my house with gold than do what's right. We just look at the corporations today. They're kind of like kings and queens of the past, where it's like, I'd rather have $100 million profit. This is after everything that your company does and makes, then I would maybe take half of that and pay my employees a living wage to where they can actually live meaningful lives and not be so desperate and worried. They can't send their kids to school. They can't buy good food. They can't live in a nice place. You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. There's enough money and to help these people. You know what I'm saying? It's just ridiculous. So the whole point of the first chapter of the book is to kind of get us on the same page. So what is the true goal of life, right? And really, I went through a lot to find this, but it's what a loving mother wants for her kid, right? It's to have all the pieces, to have great relationships, to be healthy and happy, to be passionate about something. Ideally, doing that is something they would like, to make money from and support themselves, and all the other pieces that make up a wonderful life, right? And certainly, you can have money, you can have fame, you can have those things, but if that's all you have, I've spoken to enough people like that to know that a lot of them are not happy. I will tell you that. They're not healthy. They're not experiencing the wonderful life that you think they are on Instagram. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. It's a facade. But I think that those things can come about like as a byproduct, right? And that's why I stand pretty much on the hill of purpose, right? And as far as like meaning and what life is, I heard someone sum it up pretty well that I could jive with, and that's to really discover unconditional love, right? And then below that, we have, of course, all these needs that we need to take care of as far as survival and sharing, and then it comes to passion. Sharing what we really ideally love with the world. And I think that once we get on that lifeline or whatever, that trajectory there, we start to create our own dent in the universe. And then those things can come as a bystander or as a
byproduct.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's interesting because my friends tell me that a lot. You don't know me very well. My whole life has literally been like one challenge after the next, being laid up, hit by cars or whatever it may be. And it's been to the point where it's like I have so many businesses that I've done where I've been ripped off and cheated and lied to, relationships, people. But it all taught me things, you know what I mean? And a lot of that knowledge is in the book. What's cool about like coaching or reading a book. And the book is just a book. You know what I mean? The way has got to live within us. The way is living rational, positive action. It's not my way. It's not your way. It's not their way. It is really, honestly, the human way that we all become our best. It's about integrating virtues and best practices into your life. It's about, shoring up all the foundations. It's like, how it says, everybody I've ever talked to will be destroyed, and those that'll be destroyed if any of the foundations of their life is messed with, right? Your relationship with your wife, your health, right? Now you're in the hospital all the time. Whatever it is, you got to keep all of these foundations working well all the time. It's like keeping the plates all balanced in the air at the same time. And if you don't, right, if they fall down, then it could ruin you, right? You're only as strong as your weakest link. So what I found is that, like, a lot of these books, like you said, there's millions and millions of books out there. I'm so sick of reading these books. I can't even tell you. Sometimes these people, they write books just to write books. Like, you can tell it's just like, let me stuff endless stories, make one little point, make another little point, and that's it. And you're like, wow, there was 2 virtues in that book. That's it. It's like 300 pages of 2 virtues talking about discipline and dedication or whatever. Coaches' books are like that. So you can almost scan pretty much every self-help and success book. Just look for the virtue and go, how do I integrate that virtue into my life? And that's really the key. Knowing that you want a virtue is not enough, right? It's like, how do I do it? So that's where the way comes in. There's actually 7 steps to the way. It's 7 revolutionary steps to living a meaningful life and making a real difference in the world. And I named it that, the revolutionary part and the 7 steps, because okay, let me just tell this little story real quick. I was, like I said, working on this major, I call it the book, right, for over 30 years. And it's the 4 pillars: self, society, universe, and God. A lot of information there. I had these beginning and ending, and it's April 3rd, 2015. It's actually Good Friday. And I'm just sorting out the beginning and ending. And I keep seeing my references to, this is key to true success. This is key to true success. So I put all these together and I'm playing with them, and I put them together in the right order. And it was seriously like a secret code got unlocked. I was just blown away. And I wrote for 3 days straight, outlining the whole book, the next 5 years to finish the very first volume. Actually, I wrote 3 books all at the same time. It's broken up into 3 books. The first one has been published. It was out, the hardback, in December of last year. But the whole like my whole life, I almost lost my mind a few times. Like, when you're doing all this research into how do you fix your mind, how do you deal with your emotions, how do you deal with your relationships, all these different aspects. And I was blessed by my parents giving me some awesome books, like the Great Books of the Western World, when I was a kid, and that has every philosopher on the Western world in it. What's cool, in the beginning, it has these couple books where you can trace through every idea through all of them. Anyway, so I did all this research. I found all these ideas. And now I'm trying to bring it out to the world. And it's just like you said, it's like, how do you help people? How do we all unite? And so the problem and the solution are kind of found in the same place, right? Because we're all born ignorant, helpless, and dependent, but we need our caregivers and our world to give us a correct start, right? And for us to create a better world, we all need to kind of get on the same page with these foundations and kind of build out from there. And then we need a way that we can unite to actually make these changes happen. So the idea is we get the information within the way, and then we join within the one party and movement to kind of make these things happen. And the one movement and party, just so you know, it's just starting. It's not about you joining me. It's about all of us joining together. I don't know if you can see that difference, but it's like what you're doing. I don't want you to give up what you're doing. I just want to join with what you're doing. I want to help support you, support me, and we all kind of bring the same principles together, and we start talking about them, and we share them, and we can create a better world together. Sorry, I went on a little long there.
No, you're fine. No, that I couldn't agree more. It's interdependence is kind of what we're talking about, and
we are. It takes all of us.
Spent so much time trying to jump from codependence to interdependence without going through the independence part. But, what I did learn from that autonomy course really was that, and it's about having multiple, communities that are aligned with each other, not one centralized, community, right? So like what you're doing and what, Rich is doing and what, my friend Jess is doing, whatever, these can all be additive to one another, and all
right.
A part of a big, like, sort of front line that just is widening and widening. And of course, everybody's got different ideas and ways that they want to implement and live their way. I don't really believe that there's one specific way to organize society, for instance. Like there's a lot of different philosophies there, and I'm
Sure.
fine with whatever, as long as it's voluntary. It's cool with me. If you guys want to go and like live with no locks on your doors and, no clothes on, loincloths, whatever, I don't care. It's all good. Like, as long as as long as me and my people, we get to live in the way that we choose to express ourselves and
Yeah.
organize, right?
I think that's true, but there's also, like those are fringe issues, but when you get down to the center, we all need the same things, right? If like water, like, do we have an international water plan to get water all over the world in the right way? You know what I mean? It's like, we all know we need water. We need to become the masters of water, clean water. You know what I mean? We need to become the masters of pollution. We got to stop this and be able to clean it up. It's not like, there might be 10 best practices on how to do that. We might invent new ones, but we can't just let everybody do whatever they want, because now people are, dying of, dehydration or whatever. They don't have enough food. So yeah, I respect your society, but it doesn't mean all traditions and ways of doing things, or the way that we've done it in the past, the traditions that we've had, are right and good. A lot of them are based in oppression. Our societies are literally coming from the past and growing into the future. So we have problems with slavery, with malformed systems that aren't doing what we're needing them to do. And when I talk to, like, in the United States, the right wing, left wing, everybody's like, oh, we're so divided. We're so divided. Nobody's divided. Everybody wants the exact same thing, right? No, we all want fair elections. We all want, to fill the void within, find our real people, to have a wonderful life, to, all the rest of the pieces, right? Everybody wants that. Nobody wants pollution and destruction and war and hate and violence. So it's like, what is the problem? The problem is that we have a few leaders that have been corrupted, that are literally lying and misleading and twisting the understanding of the masses, so that we become, we see ourselves as divided, and then we fight each other and we argue, and we're really all talking about the same thing. So, and this is what we see all throughout human history, right? You study, Asia, Europe, whatever, it doesn't matter, the kings and queens, it's always this, there's always some good guys, right? You look through, oh yeah, there's an exception, but majority of the kings and queens and the other rulers and leaders seem to fail this leadership test, right? They get corrupted, and then and I don't get it. I mean, would you really rather stuff your house with gold than make sure that the kids that you're supposedly caring for are fed? It's just mind-boggling. So that's where the way comes in. And when I say it's the way, I'm not telling you how to live. The way is living rational, positive action. So it's living because we do it all the time. It's rational because it's logical, and it includes a customizable implementation plan. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to have relationships. It's not like all of these foundations of life are like, oh, well, he does it, but he doesn't. No, you have to go to the bathroom, you have to sleep, you have to eat. So covering all the basics of life and giving you the best practices on how to live those allows you to then fill in the pieces of yourself with what I call the art of life. Your life is special. It could be, you look at buildings, right? You can see just some square, squat, kind of boring building, or you can see this work of art that just like takes your breath away. You are like that, right? You can just get up and live in this box life where you go to work, you sit down, you never move, never think, you watch TV, you consume, and you sit down, and then you die. It's like, I live in boxes, I die in boxes, I watch in boxes, or you can live the art of life, and you study all the martial arts. I've been in the martial arts since I was a kid, and philosophy, Eastern philosophy, the spirituality. There's a flow, there's a oneness that you can find. And I think if our society can become a little better, we can all find it a little easier. The whole idea of, like, the first two laws in the book are, again, I just skipped around a bit, but the fourth step of the book is this: creating your core belief system. Okay, everybody says they have core values. Most people you ask don't know what they are. They throw out a few things. The problem is that your core values really set up who you are, because they determine everything you feel, you think, you do, your attitude, your beliefs. So if you have the correct set of fundamental core values, then they will guide you through life, and you can use these values as literally a compass, right? In any situation. So, just the law 1 and 2, right? The first law is, for The primary purpose of life is for you to become your true self, live a true life, and go to heaven. And go to heaven if you're a believer. If you're not, you can leave that out. And the second one is the true purpose of society is to become our true society. And the idea of your true self and your true society, this has been prevalent everywhere. You know, I mean, this is kind of like the whole point of us being here. You become the best person you can be, create a better world around us. Everybody, that's what everybody wants. So if we understand those two principles and you live those, right, it really helps you. And then the third, fourth, and fifth one, just to go quickly, is, you know, respect life. All people are equal, and to treat people as you want to be treated, right? And that's this goal of reciprocity, the golden rule, has shown up in every faith throughout history. You know, I actually list them all in the book. There's like 13, 14 of them. They say it in different ways. But this idea of treating people as you want to be treated and as equals is so fundamental to fixing our world and respecting life, obviously taking care of our world and the womb in which we live in. And that's what I mean. It's not my way. This isn't Andrew coming up with these. I didn't invent equality. I didn't invent the golden rule, right? But I found those everywhere and I put them in here. So that's what I'm saying. This is kind of a consolidation of all human not knowledge, but the ways that we can become the best people we can be and create a better society, all in one book, without this guy that's like, oh, I want to write 50 books for you. No, for me to write 50 books, man, it took me 30 years to write one book. I wish I have so many books in my head. But let me just say this too, that when publishers looked at my book, I showed this to a lot of different ones. And there was a group of publishers that got together, and one of them told me about what they were saying. They were like, you know, we've never seen anything like this. Okay, everybody's books are usually just a regurgitation of Covey or Robbins or Deepak Chopra, or what, you know what I mean? It's just like, and it's usually just very, it's not comprehensive, right? It's just a perspective. Like you need 50, 100 books to be able to get some idea of how to live your life. This is a completely new thing. So I tried to put it all in one book, you know, 3 books. They wouldn't do it in one huge book, but, you know, so that we could just get on with it. You know, I mean, give me the basics. Let me fix my day. Let me integrate these best virtues into my life, and show me how to unite with people. Show me how to fix our society. Show me how to fix our justice system. What equality means. All these different principles that we all need to know, and then we can kind of move on to the bigger issues. And every time I deal with people on any big problem, it's like, especially if they're honest and let me say, it doesn't matter how divided they are. If you go down to the core, there's always this virtue there. Right? There's a virtue. I don't care what it is. You like the border wall. People are like, oh, they fight. What is the virtue on right side is law and order, you know, use of resources, wealth. Then on the left, it's humanity, treating people with respect and all that. Why? Those are all virtues. Can we do them all? You know what I mean? Can we just stop this? Oh, we must pick one virtue over another virtue and leave the other ones out. I mean, that's half our problem. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I really like where you're coming from with that, because I do think that it's really about where we focus, right? Like it's really all about attention. And I really like too that, you know, your sort of rules or your, you know, your steps starts with being your true self, right? And that translates into becoming the true society, because I think that what people are trying to do very often is they put the cart in front of the horse, right? They're trying to make all these external changes and fix this and fix that in society. And we got to do this, we got to tweak that, and this needs to change. But really, if each one of us are acting from our own true, you know, purpose, and we're doing what we're here to do, well, then society just reflects that, right? Like as above, so below, as within, so without. The meta will reflect the micro, you know?
That's exactly it. I mean, you can't create a better society until you create better people, right? The problem is that we're all born helpless, dependent, ignorant, and flawed. Oh, let's just stop with this one idea that we're flawed, okay? This idea of original sin, right? This is actually a great gift, okay? Because if we can fail, it means we can succeed. If we have the choice of success and failure, it means we have some amount of free will. Obviously, it's contained within these the human conditions under which we live. But this idea of just wanting to have everything purpose, why does God do these things? Why all these horrible things happen? Most of the horror in this world is caused by us. Right? And the rest of it is to push us to try to fix all of the problems that we can see, and to get a human race to kind of join together. And, you know, we're kind of like the change agents, right? It's like the whole universe is falling toward disorder. It's an entropic universe, entropy. So we are like the beings that are trying to make order out of chaos, right? So it's like we as beings also know the right from wrong, good from evil, right? We're not just animals, right? We don't just kill each other, eat each other while we're living, whatever. You know, it's not just horrible fest. It's different. We are a different type of being. And yes, we can become corrupted, but we can also become so much greater. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of limitations, like you said, are placed upon us by our society. They're placed on us by ourselves. But if we could just get all on the same page, let me say it like this. So we all need our caregivers in our society to give us a correct start if we're going to become the best people we can be, right? And live this meaningful life and all the rest. But to create this true society and to become the better people, we need a clear path that gets us there. We can't just all be flailing and be like, I think the biggest problem is that we're not united, right? That it's like you, me. I mean, if we had 1 billion people, think about this. The greatest power in the entire history of this planet is us, humanity united. This is what's built governments, overthrown companies or governments, built the pyramids, whatever it may be. We can do this together. Imagine 1 billion people all over the world joined in one organization. They gave $1 a month. I mean, you know, maybe there's a couple billion people, gave $1 a month and clicked on petitions, and some of them maybe boycotted some stuff or took a little action. Imagine how much power that would be. I mean, we could literally change the world within, you know, a couple of years. And this is the only time in human history that this could really happen, because we're connected like no other time. You know what I mean? 300 years ago, good luck having a revolution here and all over the world to create a better world. You know what I mean? We wouldn't even know what was happening anywhere. So, and because of the virus and the destruction of our world that we all have just kind of been are tired of. It's like, can you just stop with the horrible pollution already? For God's sake, we get it. These are legacy systems. You guys made plastics and you thought it was cool. It's not cool now. Can you just stop already? Can you make something else that's not going to destroy the frickin' world? I mean, it's really not that hard. These people, there are people in those companies, right? I'm sorry, I could go on.
No, I understand. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot of hope, and I'm very optimistic about the blockchain. You know, one of my friends is working on an app, actually, that's a barter app. And so that would connect people via blockchain so that they could, you know, connect and do basically favors for each other, right? And so that just kind of accrues within that. And it's not something that, if it's built on a blockchain and it's done in the proper way, that's not something that just gets infiltrated or taken over by, you know, a bunch of corporate greedy monsters or what have you, right? And so that's just one, you know, idea to start to link people together who are on the same page.
How do we stop these corporate monsters, man? How do we see? My whole thing in this book is we got to make the wrong right. We got to untwist the twisted. It can't just be all the good people going and grouping together and living somewhere. You know what I mean? We have to help. How do I say this? So if you took all the most evil people in the world that you can imagine, and you put them in a room, you made them all children, babies, would you want to go in that room and kill them all? Or would you want to help them grow up and be better people, right? It's like, of course we want to help them become better people. So he's like, wait a minute, maybe I asked the wrong question there. No, but seriously, man, I mean, it's like, there are people that I've spoken with that were murderers that have lived very intense, horrible lives that then realized that they were wrong, right? So it's like, you look at these people, a lot of them know, I would hope that they know they've been corrupted, but when I talk to them, they don't know how the way out, because a lot of them are stuck. Like if you're in a corporation and you're a corporate leader, you have to, you know, fight for more and more profit. You have to do certain things. And if you don't do them, you're not there anymore. So it's like, how do we make this great change? I kind of outlined some of the steps in the book, but part of it is for some of these corporate leaders who are of the good and want to change, if they are corrupted, to be good, is to join together. They can do it secretly in the beginning, make the rules, and then implement them on one day. And anybody that breaks the rules from that point on is destroyed by the rest of the group. You know, it's like, what I don't understand is why we have to keep perpetuating all of this hatred and violence and everything. It's like, I feel sorry for all these people that are, you know, being brought up to hate. I mean, people talk about white supremacy. I mean, there's you can go somewhere in the world, I don't care what you look like, go somewhere and they will hate you, right? So this idea of supremacy, this sickness of superiority has infected humanity throughout all of time. It's in our religions, it's in our faiths, it's in our organizations, it's in our just our makeup of the way we raise our kids sometimes. So this idea of equality, that's why it's one of the laws, is really profound. It doesn't mean that all people like are equal in abilities. Clearly,
Right.
some people are better than things, and it doesn't mean all traditions and everything should be equally respected, because some things are clearly horrible and wrong, right? And some things aren't. So what this really means is that we're all equal in the sense that we all should be respected, treated the same way under the law, have equal ability to live a wonderful life. You know, there's nobody that's deserving of horror. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. No,
So-
I think a lot of this stuff is just pushed and perpetuated, you know. It's like, thanks Darwin, you know what I mean? I just do it like a sketch, you know, kind of like the thanks Obama thing, but like thanks Darwin, you know, like the you know, the way that people are being, it's like a carrot on a stick. That's the way that I see it. It's like, oh, well, we've got to fix this, but we're just going to tweak it in the system here. I think new systems are really, and not to destroy anything that was. You don't have to destroy a thing. There's nothing to break or crush or burn down, right? Like, you know, I'm not trying to get Antifa over here burning my house down either. But I'm saying, like, if we can just begin to organize separate, multiple different systems and ideas, and there are people doing this. You know, like I said, I think the blockchain and other different people who are using ideas like blockchain technology are onto something for sure. You know,
Sure.
I don't really understand it super duper well, but I really like Cordal, for instance. They're doing some really cool stuff, and even some of the other cryptocurrencies and things like that. Those are definitely more secure, more private than a lot of other like centralized banks, for instance, right? Like centralized banks have been a huge issue for untold decades and centuries by this point. You know, the fall of Rome is all about like inflation and taking the, you know, the little teeny
corruption.
Corruption and inflating currency and selling fake currency, and bankers, you know, taking advantage of people. But value for value, you know, is something that, you know, if we can meter it out and we have our own systems, then nobody can really infiltrate that.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this, that The Way is a book. Okay. And I just wrote it in a book because that's how this is usually done, right? You start with a movement, you need to have a codified set of understandings that we kind of move forward on. This whole idea of what's going to happen in the future, at least for me, I mean, I'm trying to do more than just write a book, right? I started movement and everything else, but there's 7 other systems that I'm trying to build. I don't usually like talking about this because people don't really, some people don't appreciate it so much. But I've had a lot of spiritual experiences in my life. I've been on this mission. I feel like I've been shown things and seen things that it took me years. I mean, I can't even tell you, 10 years or more, 20 years sometimes, to understand some of the things I was shown in these, you call them visions or whatever. But it's all about love. You know what I mean? It all comes down to us. You know, it's like, especially as men, I mean, if you look at the biggest problems in the world, most of the time, okay, it's us, it's dudes. Okay, it's this, and you've been there. I've been in corporate America. I've been in more fights than men I can even imagine. But it's always this arrogance. You know what I mean? It's like we gotta up each other. You know, I gotta have my thumb over you. I gotta fight you. I gotta shut that guy up. I gotta feel more masculine. And it's because we're not raising our kids correctly. This bullying, and in the 3rd book I go through the solutions on how to fix bullying and raise our kids and all that kind of stuff. But it's so unbelievably profound, and you can see it reflected throughout all of human history, is that a lot of times the bullies become leaders, and they take that same attitude, right? Where I got to put my thumb over you. I have to, you know, take for myself. It's this barbarian or savage level mentality. They never evolve to higher levels of civilized or enlightened or even your true self. So, you know, for me, it's like, how do we do this? I mean, I'm sick of all these books. I'm sick of all these videos. I'm sick of everything. I just want the answers, and I want it done. You know what I mean? So like for me, I try to cut down to the nitty gritty and give it to everybody as quick as possible so that we can get on to the next phase. And it is starting this organization, these other businesses, like you said, then the media, and we can go into the news. I mean, is everybody just sick of a couple billionaires telling us what we should think? I mean, I don't know about you. I'm so tired of watching. I don't care what channel it is. It's like, okay, I get it. You're the formula. tell us something that you want us to think, then get a bunch of talking heads in here to back up your little programming so you can program us to think the way that you want us to think. There's no news anymore. It's like news is, if you think about, just go back, right? What is news supposed to do? It's supposed to help us, inform us, to make our decisions, to, vote properly, to do all these different things. But we all have interests. Like where are the stories on global warming? Everybody's interested on issues like that. Corporate corruption, the justice system. You know what I mean? Instead of just having newscasters give us the same kind of weird news all day long, why not have segments to where we can actually get the news we actually want? Why not have a people's news station where we all contribute to, and then it's all the different stories we are after that we tell them that we want to know instead of them telling us. Anyway, I have a lot of other solutions. I'm not doing a good job explaining it, but I just feel like it's this decentralized people, like the masses doing things, like pushing. It's like democracy in a way. You know what I mean? Like we decide who our leaders are, but it's become corrupted. So our leaders aren't really the true leaders that we need. So how do we fix all of this? And again, like you said, we got to become better people. We need to get on the same page, creates a better society. And that's what this movement, the book's about, is to kind of get us on that same page so we can make these changes instead of wasting all this time. I don't know about you, but if we go to war again, another world war, it's going to be beyond like it was before. I mean, do you want to go to robot war? You want to go to space war? Jesus, talk about the end of the world. Anyway,
man, I hear you there. I mean, you got to know something's up whenever you turn on Fox News and they got a British guy who's a newscaster. Like I've been writing a lot of jokes about the media at this point, right? Like NPR. I say that it's ASMR for brainwashing. What does it stand for, right? Nazi propaganda radio. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's National Public Radio, but even still, and that was one of the news sources that like a lot of my friends trust. They think because it's called that, then it must be legitimate and it's not, infiltrated by people who have lots and lots of money. But in fact, it's not really all that public. They have a lot of sponsors and things like that. And just because they talk so calmly, that it's.
Oh, yeah, you believe them. And that's the whole thing. I mean, they spent God knows how many millions of dollars to figure out how they can program you to do what they want. And a lot of times, if you go into that industry and you analyze it, it is the stories that bleed, that lead. It's always the preying on our reptile mind, as they say. Is it sex? Is it violence? Then it's like, and they go right from sex to violence, or violence to sex. It kind of messes with your brain. Sure. I mean, they study these things, so that's what they project. And it's the money in news. You know what I mean? It's like there's some things in the world that just don't do well under the profit motive. You know what I mean? It's like prisons. It's like your whole idea of a prison is to have more and more prisoners. I mean, are you going to be helping anybody in your prison, or you don't want them to come back? Hey, you just left here. We tormented you, so now you're never going to succeed in society. So now you're going to be back here. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like schools. It's like, yeah, I don't know if you want to make money off of people learning. I mean, it's like, if you're going to have a great society, there's a couple things you need to give your kids, right, growing up. And that's all the health stuff that they need so they can grow good bodies and minds, but also education and knowledge. And, it's like this idea that we should all have to pay for some type of higher education and it's ruining families is ridiculous. It's like, do you not want to have a great society? I mean, there should be some level of higher education training. I don't care if it's, go to college and get a degree or learn a really good skill that can take you through life. That's only going to help your society. If you don't do that, then what do you got? You got a person that's going to need help for his whole life, or are you going to educate them and give them the tools they need to be able to add to the society and care for themselves?
So I think that's the name of the game right there. You just nailed it with tools, right? Like people know how to learn for themselves. They can figure things out for themselves. They can follow their own curiosity, their own passion, and then ultimately give their gift to the world, right? Like that's a very individual basis. But what school teaches us, and you can read John Taylor Gatto's essay on the 7-lesson school teacher that he wrote after he won New York State Teacher of the Year. That was like 1990 or something like that. And he's like, I can't remember all of them, but like, he's like, the lessons I teach are class position, obedience to authority, lack of privacy, and on and on and on. They're not, geography or geometry or English or grammar or any of those things. It's basically like teaching you how to be a robot, more or less. And that's kind of what schools become. It's not an education, it's schooling, and schooling is not education. But we can still find these tools, and we can even still going through the educational quote unquote system, still get a hold of the tools that we need to learn ourselves. And when we can become our own learner, now we have all the power, and we're no longer, at odds with this system, right? We can kind of start our own way and not be led
Absolutely.
by it.
I think I think that was one of the things that helped me as a kid, is that I couldn't see, I couldn't spell, I couldn't do math. I mean, it was impossible. I couldn't read, you know what I mean? And so it was like, how does this kid learn anything? So it was like, I started getting, when you're blind or handicapped, they have this program where you can get tapes, or back then it was tapes, now it's audio, audio books and listening to books. And I was in the learning disabled group as a kid and whatever. And, it's like, there's a stigmatization for you. Let's call this group the learning disabled group and take the kids out of class. And here, it's time to go to the learning disabled group, kids. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And besides its differences, just so most of the people that have learning disabilities, as we call them, they have other side is they also have gifts. I was tested out as, genius and abstract thinking and other areas of that realm where I couldn't do math. I can take wads, huge amounts of data and come up with, information through it, or find patterns and things that people can't normally see. So, it's for me, it's like, you can't take any kid and decide how far they're going to go in life by whatever they're showing as a kid. You just don't know. I mean, there's so many kids that have problems that turn out to be great successes later. If we could just help them harness these things as a kid instead of them failing out of school. I mean, how many great people that I've read about is like, oh yeah, he went out, he failed out of elementary school and he had to figure out, this kid had learning disabilities, right? And he ended up figuring it out. And if you look at most of the leaders, I have lists of it on the website in my book. Some of our greatest leaders throughout all of human history have had these problems, yet we call them disabilities. You know what I mean? It's like our whole society is just slightly sick and twisted. It's becoming, like you said, okay, it's like our educational system. It's all rising out of slavery and oppression. It's like, don't move, sit there, don't be human, be a robot. You know what I mean? It's like, God forbid a kid should get up and run around. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we treat our kids like they're not even human. We'd rather give them drugs than wear them out. You know what I mean? Like boys, some boys, they're just so growing and athletic and have so much energy, man. You got to run these kids into the ground for hours and hours before they get tired to where they're going to go to sleep at night. You're like, wonder why my kids can't sleep, because you're giving them caffeine all day. You're not exercising them, not letting them sleep properly. And you wonder why your kid is a little messed up. It's like, that's what I mean about these fundamental things. We aren't taught these things. Like you were saying, it's like, what are we taught in school? Endless math. Who needs to know endless math nowadays? There might be some kids, right? There might be some kids that are like, wow, this is awesome. Let them go. Let them go to calculus, whatever, in 8th grade, 6th grade. I don't care. Fine, that's your ability. But most kids would rather know how to actually deal with their finances. I mean, how do you balance budgets? You know what I mean? Like, what are all the variables? How do you use a program like Quicken to take care of yourself? You know what I mean? These are the fundamental skills kids need to get out of school. How to raise a child. I mean, how many of us are going to have kids and raise kids? Is that taught in school? All you get is sex ed. You know how to make a kid, but you don't know how to raise a kid. And just some of the basics. I mean, this is why, in my opinion, we need to have this big change. And when you have the ideas, the fundamental ideas of what a society needs to be, you can integrate them in. You can easily see the problems. I mean, to me, it's like, I talk to people, everybody knows the problem. I've talked to people all over the world. I've lived in Japan. I've traveled the world. I've spoken with people everywhere from every country. And we all are like, yeah, but no, we don't want pollution. No, we don't want these governments doing war. We don't want all of this horror. We don't want these corporations destroying the world. It's like everybody, every single human being, it's like we all want the same thing. You talk to people in the Middle East, it's like, I can't even tell you. It's like everybody feels oppressed. It's like there was more money in the Middle East than pretty much anywhere else in the world. Yet you look at the people's lives, and you're like, why are these people suffering so much? Why? I mean, for God knows how many tens of years that we've been giving them trillions and trillions of dollars. It should be the most beautiful paradise for everybody. But no, they want to come and kill us. It's like they're being taught to hate everybody. It's like, dude, your leaders are the ones that are oppressing you. They have the cash, or they're hoarding it for themselves and they're not sharing it with their neighbors or whatever. It's like we as a society have to stop this idea that it's just me. You know what I mean? It's like we live in a world we're not an island, right? If we haven't learned already that it only takes a few people to be super desperate and confused and misled to destroy everything for everybody, right? And it's only going to get worse. I mean, we get into biological things with CRISPR and a robotic war. I mean, we're not going to survive as humans on this planet if these people keep being corrupted and going down that road, because they're going to lead us to a point where we can't come back. You know, I mean, the Terminator's coming and destroying your life. I mean, if you make endless, I mean, we laugh, but it's true. I mean, right now we have robots that are being designed to kill, and robots don't stop. You know, they don't ever stop, and you can just keep building them and sending them. And if you have a machine that can do that, you could take over the entire world. You know what I mean? Just kill everybody and then let you know what I mean? Is that what we want? Or the biological stuff. We can make agents to go kill certain ethnic groups. You know what I mean? I mean, if we don't get a handle on some of these technologies, or space war, my God, the idea of anybody having a space military and going into space and fighting is ridiculous. Because it's not about up there, it's about dropping stuff on us. Anybody that has the high ground in space, you know, you don't need nuclear weapons. You just drop a rock and you can destroy cities. So, I mean, like I said, for us as humanity, as the masses, we have to take control of our leaders. We have to get the bad ones out, put the good ones in, create a system that's going to work for all of us. And we have to do that. The only way to do that is to get on the same page when it comes to some of these basics and then work out from there.
Yeah, I think we have to be the leaders that we want, right? Like we don't get to, it's not about picking somebody else. This is the problem, I think. And this is why like superhero movies are so popular, you know, so-and-so is going to save us. QAnon's going to save us. And then everything's going to be fine. And you know what? I mean, if that were to happen, wow, that sure would be great if like a Superman popped down or Spider-Man, whoever, and did something great. Like great. That's like that's extra, that's gravy. That's icing on the cake. We have to be responsible for ourselves, and we need to be the leaders that we wish we had.
I actually say that in the book. I say that we are the superheroes that we're looking for. It's all of us together. It's like this idea in Christianity when they say, you know, like Christ is going to come back and save everybody. You can interpret that whole thing. And again, there's a difference between God, books, messengers, faiths, you know, organizations, and the people in those faiths. So when we look at the idea of Christ coming back to save us, you can see it as we, as humanity, because Christ he wasn't like follow me being, you know, Christian religion. He was just a guy and people made it religion around him, or, you know, a born again part of God. So the idea is that we are all the body of Christ. We are all the we are the children of God. There is no us versus them in this, right? That's the illusion, is that we're in some type of huge competition where you have to fail for me to succeed. No, if you fail, you're going to hurt me, right? It's like if you look at the world, I mean, just with terrorism or people fleeing. I mean, yeah, look at the border. Okay, what is the problem on the border? It's like, oh, the border. The biggest problem is that the countries below us are failing and people are fleeing. They're literally, can you imagine the desperation in your family when you're like, I'm going to take my 4-year-old and I'm going to let them go alone to another country because that's the only hope that we have for them. I mean, can you imagine doing that with your children? How desperate you would have to be? So why is it this way? The only way we're going to fix this border issue is help fix the countries that are below us. And if you look at the history, we've actually, the United States, which makes me sick, we've actually destabilized those governments. Mm-hmm. And that's beyond me. It's like, why wouldn't you want well-functioning democracies, successful democracies all around you? You know, I mean, it's that we made this problem. You know, over the last few hundred years, we could have had the best partners in the world in the south and north of us. This whole hemisphere could have been one just big, you know, social chain of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, it's so much easier to exploit resources when countries are destabilized. And that's the process. I mean, if you read like economic,
like Africa, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, which is a huge continent. I mean, it's very rich in resources as well. It would appear that China's kind of taken advantage of that. And
well, we all have been. I mean, the European nations started it back in the day when they conquered, you know, I mean, the Dutch, the French, the English, everybody went down there and took pieces and, you know, they still own it. I mean, they own the industry, the mines, they're all foreign owned entities, and they work those people to death there. And it's horrible. It's like, if you really understood what companies are doing in the world, all of us would be sickened. And that's what gets me about the news. We don't have real news because we're not focusing on the problems. And God bless some of these people. I think they really feel like they're doing good, right? Like Tucker Carlson, I always wonder, like, do you think these people are puppets? Like they have no clue, like they really believe the stuff they're saying and they're fully into it? Or are they like conniving, like they know they're lying and manipulating and saying things in a certain way to get people to do what they want? It's hard for me.
I think they're straight out of Westworld, bro. That's what I think. I think they're just like robots. They're just programmed. There's somebody there with a keyboard. No, I don't know. I really don't know to tell you the truth. But yeah, you got to know. Like there's a couple, like Ben Swan, I really like a lot. He's been someone who's been very outspoken. He's doing his own thing now. And I think, he's one of the type of journalists that said, you know what, I'm not going to bow down to corruption. I'm going to, tell things like I personally see it. And, I mean, if you work for a big company, it's the same in comedy, straight up, like all the good comedians now, they're doing their own thing, like JP Sears and Ryan Long and, Brent Pella, like they're not signing for SNL. Like to be part of that corporate conglomerate now is incredibly disenchanting. And it didn't always used to be that way. People really wanted to be a part of that group and support that. But I think we really are seeing the fracturing of that power. And I think that's why it keeps getting more and more absurd and ridiculous. And the more absurd and ridiculous it gets, I'm hoping the more people will see through that and really start to listen to their inner voice, right? Like that's the big thing that connects us all. We're all connected there to God.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's that conscience. If you're following some group or faith or organization that is making you hate, that is dividing you, you have to realize that you might be in some type of fractured organization that isn't really leading you to truth. You can't just blindly follow. I've had this conversation, and I think there's this idea in faith, and it doesn't matter what faith, that by giving up your mind and your intelligence and everything and just submitting is somehow you're more faithful. You know what I mean? You're more in tune with God. God did not give us our minds and our conscience and our morality for you to put it on the sideline to listen and worship a book or somebody who's telling you what this person said or meant. That's the whole challenge. It's flawed. All of our faiths, all of our books are flawed. This is the human reality. And for us to realize that and then to take the steps to compensate for it is what makes us a noble species, right? It's if you embrace your hate and and you think you're part of some loving faith, you're not. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no difference between somebody, in any country in this world. We're all human beings, right? And everybody has the divine spark within them, this goodness, you don't know, there could be so many intelligent, helpful people that are just never able to do anything because they're having to carry water for 20 miles every day, and they're barely eating and they're starving to death. Now my child's being brought up without the right food, so his brain isn't developed, his body isn't developed. He's never going to reach his full potential. We as a species have to realize that our greatest capital on this planet is humanity. It's like if we take care in raising our kids correctly, giving them the nutrition, the education, the emotional stability, everything else that they need, they're going to become better people. And they become better people, they create a better society. We keep pushing this down the road. We keep creating a better society. We're going to get to the point where instead of we're trying to fix all this wrongness all the time, we're going to be refining and perfecting the goodness. Right?
Yeah, I think that's a much better approach. And there's just a lot of people, I think, in denial, frankly. Like it gets more and more obvious. The clown show gets more and more obvious, and the more you see it, the more it's it. But I really think the better approach is to, like you say, like start doing our thing. Going this one way, which is really an emotional and a spiritual kind of path, and really building communities. And
building a community, like you said, going our own way, but we have to unify, because I think that the way that the corrupt leaders always win over us is that they divide us. The more smaller groups that we're broken into, the less power we have. So like for me, I started the One Movement. If people go there and sign up, you're not giving up anything. You're joining your group with ours. And it's not like I'm going to ask you to do anything you would never want to do. It's about all of us asking, what is it we need to do to make these changes happen? I might have a great idea. You might have a great idea. We put all these great ideas together. We pick the ones that need to be done in certain times, and we do them. And then we share it on, like on your broadcast, you could talk about whatever solution we're doing, and everybody does that. You know what I mean? We can create a movement to make these changes happen. If we don't unite, and like you said, it's like, certainly we need some celebrities and some leaders and obviously people with money to help us. That'll help make this go faster and, become a little more effective. But at the same time, we need more and more people, not just to join, but to become the best people that they can be. So yeah, that's the page. We're just starting this. So I'm really doing a lot of this myself. So I need all help and advice I can get. Don't look at this as being, oh, this is the final version of everything.
Sure.
No,
everything's a work in progress, man.
Absolutely. And I'm looking for really good people to, unite and really move this forward. So.
No, I love that. I think it's great. And it's definitely something that I'm going to promote and I'm going to sign up myself here when we get off. I just wanted to make sure that people had a way to do that. So if you go to Andrew's website, which is, the link is in the show.
7 WayMe. Let me say it's the number 7, WAY.me. And it's done that way for reasons. It's like 7 WayMe now. So you're like getting all the 7 steps, all this goodness within you. It's kind of short, hopefully easy to remember. So 7 WayMe, the 7 steps in the way, the book's the way. It's like you said, nothing's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm flawed. I don't know what to say or how to say everything in the perfect way. I wish I could be all things to all people to make sure that this movement and these ideas got through to everybody. But a lot of times too, we as individuals need to take responsibility for ourselves. So part of this challenge that we have is like, how do you, cut through the noise? I'm doing videos to make it easier. I'm going to be doing an audio book, hopefully. I'm having some financial issues like everybody in the society pretty much is, over the last couple of years with this, or last year with this challenge with COVID. So, I think if we all just support each other in little ways, we can raise all boats in a way. I think that's kind of the idea. Absolutely. It's like the idea of all these mass companies that make, we made $300 million profit last year, yet our people can't live and they're on food stamps. It's got to end. I mean, seriously, this idea, like, I get, like you said, the top down, we got to force minimum wage and all this. Why in God's name don't companies just do it? You know what I mean? Why is it like, we got to create a law. We must force you. We must go in there and put you in jail. It's like, why don't these leaders just go, we made a sick amount of profit last year. How about we just, instead of paying people $7 an hour and they know they're on food stamps, they can't live, why don't we just pay them 50 grand a year, 60 grand a year? Nobody's now poor in our company. And this is what I don't get, okay? If you studied economics, like I have, this is basic, like 101 on how you make a country better. Every society is built on the basics, and I'm talking food and water and transportation and, all these basic systems. If everybody that's working in those systems gets paid to I call in the book, I call it the happiness level. It's like the zone where you can live your life, feed your kids, save for retirement and all these kind of good stuff. If you live within this happiness level, you're going to create more want and desire. You're going to help companies. Companies are always like, we need more customers. Well, you've got about, I don't know how many millions and millions of poor people that are ready to buy your stuff. They're all working full time. They're ready to go, but they just aren't getting paid enough. You know what I'm saying? So like all we have to do is like, how do we stimulate the economy? If you just, for God's sake, would pay all the low end workers that are working higher wages, they would buy more stuff, stimulate the economy. You'd need to hire more people, stimulate, it's a circular process. It's really not that complicated. It was like, we struggle because we must grind everybody down to the nth degree. We got to pay you the least amount. We must destroy the environment. This whole legacy way of thinking about destruction and exploitation has got to end, for God's sake. It's like, if you're a business leader, I call it what a true business is in the book. There's certain parts that we all share as a business owners, but if you're not taking care of this world and taking care of your people, you are not running a true business. You're running some type of exploitation scheme that is, out to just better yourself. And again, it's like, I don't understand this. Like, do you want to live in a world where everybody hates you and spitting in your food, and the world is being destroyed because of your lack of care? I mean, what a horrible place. I mean, why not become better people and take care of the world and people that you're literally have the power to care for?
Yeah, well, I could tell you why, but we're on YouTube, and fortunately, I have content safe that is going to distribute all my content. But I'm not necessarily trying to get throttled today. I mean, the power is up to the power is in our hands. There's more of us than there are, people who want to take advantage. It really is just about uniting, connecting, building communities, doing that type of thing, and that's really what it's all about. So I really appreciate your work and everything that you put into it. It's a lot. You've been through a lot, and to write a book as someone who's battled with dyslexia is incredibly inspiring. I'm really excited. By the way, you made a sale today. I see in the chat. So that's
I did. Cool. And, it's nice to sell a book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I did to sell millions, but God bless you, man. I thank you. And I like I said, I wrote this to really help people. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Man, it is my pleasure, folks. Yeah, you guys go to Andrew's website, check it out. I've got the link in the show notes. It's down there. And, I really appreciate everybody. Thanks everybody out there, everybody on Patreon, everybody in the Facebook group, everybody who is contributing. The Discord servers lighten up. It's amazing. And I just really appreciate everybody's support. If you want to work with me, I encourage you to do so. I'm a big fan of finding and implementing your life's purpose. So go to bootsygreenwood.com/getcoached and, join a community of people who are really starting to dovetail their skills and their talents. Hop on that Facebook group. I'll be a lot more active there here in the next couple of weeks, and definitely check out Andrew's work. Really, really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. And let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.
I'll send some links to stuff, and do likewise. And we'll continue to perpetuate our relationship forward. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just the start, man. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you. Cheers.